everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fake Friends podcast. This is episode 6. We got a very special guest with us today, Tavian. What's going on, man?
What's up? How we doing?
How we doing, huh? Still current question.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
So we had to bring on Tavian today. We wanted to talk, the sneaker game, sneakerhead shoes, kicks. You have been in it for quite a while, right? Collecting, selling, buying, the whole process.
Yeah, I was collecting basically because of my dad since a very young age. I really got into buying, selling, and trading like the end of 2019-ish. 2019. And ever since then, I've been buying, selling, and trading shoes for the most part.
What? Explain that whole process, culture, environment of buy a shoe that instantly increases in value, resell that shoe, and how you visualize, a value of profit and say a popular shoe, a not popular shoe, etc.
It really started for me. The biggest influence behind it is definitely social media. And especially with my age group, they push social media to a different degree. And with fashion, at the end of like 2019, with shoes became a big thing with Jordans. Obviously, shoes been around a long time. Before Jordans had really taken off at the end of like 2019, before the Jordan documentary came out, it was Yeezys. But as far as like how I view what's worth my time for a shoe that I know I'm looking to target to buy and eventually sell, it has to have like a certain profit margin and the effort that I'm going to take as far as getting that shoe. So like for me, at least now I target like quick flip shoes. It's like a shoe that has, say the demand is like $20 to $40. If I can get my hands on 5 of those shoes, if it's not a relatively hard shoe to get, because the profit margin is only $20 to $40. Say it was $20 and I get 5 of those pairs, I make $100 off that shoe just selling it like that. If it's $20,
selling 5 pairs of them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
At this point, I look for quick turnarounds. There's certain shoes that, based on just my intuition and research from YouTubing, and recognizing the demand, the hype behind the shoe before it releases, that I'm like, maybe I should consider holding the shoe, because at the beginning when the shoe releases, everybody has their hands on it, and you'll have the people that are trying to get rid of it to get their profit right away, versus the people that want to be patient and see what the shoe does. Similar to like a stock, if they're trying to buy a stock and hold a stock because they see a stock going up in the future time, they're obviously going to hold it to where their profit margin becomes larger. So to make that decision, I usually, like I said, I research based on like YouTube videos, the popularity behind the shoe before it comes out, and then I'll make my decision after that. And what I want to do, whether I want to quick flip it, whether I want to hold it for a couple months to see what the market does, or whether I want to hold it like long term, like a year type stuff.
Oh, that makes sense.
Real quick, just because you did mention it, you said your dad got you interested in collecting, right?
Yeah.
So what part of I'm assuming his collection got you started? Like, what pair of shoe was it, or was it just like the whole part of the process for like getting out there early mornings? Because I mean, I know there's still shoe releases today. You got to go in person, but a lot of shoes today is buying online. So was it that whole process of like getting up early and staking out to get in line, or?
Well, I mean, to be honest, when I was a kid, obviously my dad was buying all my shoes. But the shoe that really got me into it was probably the 11s, Jordan 11. That was like my favorite shoe as a kid growing up. It still is.
It seems to be a very popular, iconic shoe for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was my pop's favorite shoes, was like the 11s and the 12s. Obviously, I wanted to be like my pop. So those kind of introduced me to the shoe game at that point. Now, as you mentioned, the like how it's online, there's no more like sitting outside for 15 hours like my pops was doing back in the day. It's definitely a different dynamic. It's a more safe dynamic that these companies seem to think is the situation, even though people are still getting hurt over shoes. But now that it's switched to online, it's made it a lot difficult for the normal human being to be able to get their hands on it.
Yeah, I can. Two things I want to touch on there. I can attest to the camping out, for some very, very rare shoes. I think I spent maybe 12 hours overnight one time with Pops and doing that. And like you said, it's appeared to be a more safe environment, but with that environment, it also seems to be a little more unfair because there's a lot of equality and fairness. And hey, I was here the longest. I'm first in line. I'm guaranteed a pair of shoes. You could log on to the website 30 minutes before releases. You could hit enter raffle as soon as the clock allows you to. And in 2 minutes, it's sold out. So, it's not a first come, first serve anymore.
Yeah. Quick L's.
So I don't know if it's, maybe it's more safe, but there's definitely it's now definitely a controlled market on who is actually able to purchase these shoes, which, you'd have to just question because I think the aftermarket is bigger than the retail market for these shoes now. There's more money made in the aftermarket when people are paying 10 times the price of the retail shoe, So it's an interesting dynamic with, like you said, the way they're released and raffles, in-store raffles, where you got people who kind of control that as well. None of that's really randomized if you think about it. And then, like you said, online, it's really a luck of the draw.
Online, you got in a store, say you got 300, say a raffle opens on a Wednesday and closes on a Friday for a shoe. Say 500 people came in, and that's a lot of people to come in and sign up for a raffle. Online, you got millions of people clicking the same button at the same time. So obviously, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get a shoe online versus possibly getting lucky in store.
What your experience with all the online with trying to win the shoe raffles and whatnot, what do you feel the percentages for bots driving like all the sales on these websites for people buying bots to get the shoes? You think majority of those are bots or 50-50? Where do you think between people and bots?
For majority of all the websites that release shoes, they're all getting botted. So your Foot Locker, your Champs, your JD Sportses, your Finish Lines, your Yeezy Supplies, all that is getting botted. Now it's gotten to a point where the raffles such as sneakers, the sneakers app, which is Nike's app, the way to release shoes, is quote unquote not supposed to get botted because it's a raffle system that's not technically a website. All these websites that release, like Foot Locker, they release shoes on their website. They don't release shoes. They release shoes on their app, but it's also like their website. And their app has so much traffic. Like I was saying, millions of users are trying to get that shoe at the same time, so they can't even handle the traffic. And these people that have developed these bots and proxies and all this other stuff, I don't really understand that. I never really got into that market. I don't think that's really
So speaking of the bots, because I have a question about the resale stores. These stores that exist in malls, boutique stores that exist, in
great question. Yes,
downtown cities, where none of their shoes are retail prices. They don't get them at retail. They don't have. I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but just in terms of the inventory, they don't have accounts with, say, a Nike or an Adidas to receive the shoes at retail. How does a store, and I don't know if you had to answer this, but how does a store maintain business when they're relying on inventory that is not easy to, get? Like,
and then you need those customers to even
you need those customers to even get to the store and buy it. Because now, for example, me, like, I collect sneakers, buy shoes, want shoes. I find myself now just accepting the aftermarket price. If I'm comfortable paying the aftermarket price, that's where I'm gonna get it from instead of the hassle of trying to get it retail. If I get it at retail, cool. Like you said, the effort it takes is just not worth it to me anymore. But then at the same time, these stores that are selling all these shoes at aftermarket prices, how are they becoming kind of the middleman for the consumer and the supplier? So, if obtaining the supply is so, hard.
What what I have seen, and I get a lot of this information off YouTube, but a lot of the bigger resellers that have YouTube channels and also do investments with like botting and stuff, they contact these shops, and these shops get multiple. They market the fact that they're buying shoes 24/7. So when they're doing that, they have a bunch of people reaching out that are always going to have shoes, and then you're also going to have those people that bought that are looking to get rid of their inventory because they got 100 pairs of one shoe. They're not trying to hold on to 100 pairs of one shoe. So as they email back and forth between the shop and this person that's bought the amount of shoes that they think is the amount of shoes they feel comfortable of getting a certain profit margin on. They want to sell all these shoes at one time. The best opportunity to sell all these shoes at one time is going to be a shop.
Just to a store.
Yeah. So that's how you'll see a shoe that came out, say it came out on a Saturday. That week, the shop has like 100 pairs of them because they got multiple people that's contacting them from different places. And it could be local. It could be shipping wise. You got people that just make connections like that.
I was just under the impression that these shops had bots themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a thing. They probably, the shop owners probably do have.
Or they're selling fakes.
They do bot shoes probably.
Or they got a plug on fake shoes.
I mean, yeah, that's also.
Which I think is very possible.
I think that's very possible.
I have a question, especially with some of these stores too, is, I do a lot of like sports card collecting, and like these companies like Upper Deck, Panini, Topps, they'll have accounts with like local hobby stores that sell these products in like cases. But now because with Instagram, online breaking for like products, when people open up just boxes and boxes, some of these IG people, I believe, are actually getting access accounts to these companies, which is insane. Because these companies are looking like, oh, I can move these products to these people and like get their product out there. So is it possible in this like shoe industry for maybe some of these stores you see in malls or like on like, in LA on the famous like Fairfax and stuff like that, are they able to like sneakily tap into like, some of these like companies?
Yeah, do they got like
without anyone knowing, like with Yeezy or Nike and stuff like that, like Adidas, and just kind of like get backdoored in with like these deals to make, payments? Like, is there any talk in the realm of like, you said you listen to, you watch a lot of people on YouTube. Is there any chatter about that amongst the community about maybe these stores having like access, to be able to?
I definitely think so. I know for a fact one of the Yeezy factory store, one of them is in Bloomington, which is in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if somebody knows somebody, it's easy.
Right.
I mean, because that's a very lucrative opportunity for anybody at that factory store. For anybody, if I put yourself in the shoes of working at that factory store, I mean, for an example, there was a son of a Nike executive. I don't remember the exact story, but that Nike executive's child was making a killing just because he was basically the plug. And so if I'm working at a factory store, I'm going straight to a resale store to be like, look, I can get you 10 pairs of every new release. This is my flat fee. Cash me out. And now if I'm that store, it's like the drug business in movies. You got a plug and you getting it at a decent price and you're able to flip it and it's consistent. Why would anybody not do that? But like the fairness aspect of it again is kind of like you don't really buy shoes at retail price anymore.
No.
Well,
not sought after shoes.
How much does hype or demand, I guess same thing, for a product release have to do with your chances of getting the product? Because in theory, not every time the same shoes getting produced the same amount of quantity, at least for like, we'll just say like Yeezys, so it's really all luck at the end of the day if you're just a regular person, correct? Like there's no like, for instance, the 350 lights that just came out, I won them. I've always had great experience with Dick's. I don't know if that means that shoe, for as far as Yeezy goes, has a lot of inventory. So I've been lucky with Dick's, and then that same time on that same shoe, I got on Adidas Confirm. So I was either just very lucky, or there was maybe more shoes or people didn't want them, but that's a nice shoe. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, because it is a money-making business with flipping shoes. So if people who really, they're not always buying the same shoes, or will they just buy every shoe to come out to try to flip it no matter what the hype is with it? Like you said for yourself, you're dialed in on a specific to where you know you can make money. So you're not going to touch certain shoes. So when it comes to, we'll just say Yeezys, it doesn't, like, people aren't having luck. Like, you go on Yeezy Supply, it's like sold out in a minute, and you're like, how?
No matter the shoe.
Yeah. So, and then you'll see the aftermarket, and you're like, well, it's not, double, and it's not even a third of the resale. It's like $20 more. You're like, how did I not get it at retail? Yeah. So it's just interesting. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
It's making the way that it is now, how it's like, how you said it's sold out on Yeezy Supply, it's making people settle for the margins of like that $10 to $15.
Like I said,
while they're trying to accumulate.
Yeah. And
the only way to make significant profit is to accumulate 20 to 30 pairs.
Multiple pair.
And sell them at that mark percentage, the profit margin, that's all. That's
like the conversation we had, Jay, the other day about those 500 highs that we just got, that we both wanted, right? Yeah. And I was like, hey, I didn't get these, if I'm not going to get them at retail, what, $220 the retail was on them? All right. And they're reselling for $250. So I'm paying $50 more after taxes. Is that a significant, price increase for me as a consumer to not want to purchase it? If I really want the shoe, point, like he just said, just settling for this margin increase.
Because the point I'm trying to make, with no evidence, by the way, I mean, you would have more of an idea of this than me, but it seems like these companies, we'll just say like Adidas, Nike, who make their shoes for like $2, they realize how popular the secondary market is. They could just be working in hand with these secondary market resellers. They're like, hey, we'll just sell you our shit at retail. Then you have the shoes to then sell and make money. Like, because that's really what it seems like going on. I know I have no proof of that, but
to touch on that, I firmly believe that the higher the aftermarket is for your product, the more value your brand has in the retail market for everything. You understand what I mean? So like if an Adidas shoe is retailing for $200, but the resale of the average resale of an Adidas shoe is $300 to $400, that brand is considered more valuable. It's like, is that not an accurate perception of a brand?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Think about it. For example, I could have a pair of Jordans. I could have a pair of Adidas that I got, Yeezys per se, in particular, that I got at retail price. But the aftermarket value is what's perceived when you wear them out and people see them on your feet. They're like, oh, they don't say that's a $200 shoe. They say that's a $600 shoe because of the aftermarket value. And now that brand, that Yeezy brand, that Jordan brand is considered a higher value just because of the aftermarket, not the retail market. So like you said, I could totally understand how, if I'm an Adidas, marketing exec, I want the aftermarket high on my shoe. We need to somehow control that aftermarket, or at least influence it. We need to at least influence it. So yeah, these individual stores and these boutique stores, how can we help keep their supply up? I really believe like that has to exist. There's no way these boutique stores, the rent for these retail shops on the street and in the malls are way too expensive to sell inventory of things that you don't get consistent inventory of or even make consistent sales. And then how do you purchase? You're buying them from people who are also reselling it. So that business model just doesn't add up when you really think about it without some form of connection to the actual supply. You have to have a connection to the supply or you're selling fakes. And I don't know how true that, I don't know how real that is, but there's no way you have that business model and you sustain when you got to pay rent. And you're not selling $1,000 shoe every week. You're not even, like you said, like your kind of approach, David. You're not selling 6 shoes at a $20 profit because people don't come in and buy shoes at the aftermarket daily or even weekly like they do shoes on a retail market.
Yeah,
there's got to be some form of a backdoor connection, or you're selling fake shoes. Which I can't personally say, and maybe you kind of speak to it a little bit, Tavian. I think it kind of helps. Some people say it's watered down or it's saturated, but I think for the true the true sneaker, what they say, sneakerhead, you can't saturate a market because the true sneakerhead buys shoes that has some significance to them, not just because of what's popular and hyped up. So if you're a true sneakerhead, the market never gets saturated. It might be harder to get the shoe you want. You might have to pay a premium or a more premium price, but ultimately, when it comes to your collection, the shoe you want in your collection, you're going to buy regardless. You understand what I'm saying?
For sure. It's all about satisfying yourself and what you
Period.
like, obviously, as a consumer at that point.
Yeah. Because I don't think the aftermarket is for the collector anymore. I think it's for the, what they call it, the hype beast. I think it's for the high school kid. The aftermarket is for that kid whose parents are spending the $600 on a shoe for Christmas, for birthdays. That's what the aftermarket is for. It's not for the sneaker collector. It's not for the sneakerhead anymore. The aftermarket is for the reseller and for the average consumer. That's why I just feel like the retail market doesn't really exist for these hyped up shoes. It's almost, it's almost impossible.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel. I feel like these companies, these manufacturers are in direct, like they created the secondary market, and they are just giving their inventory to them. They're selling it to them so they can sell it. Like that's really what I think is going on with no proof. Yeah.
Prime example: the day these shoes come out in stores or online. I mean, even previous, you can purchase them on these resale apps. GOAT, you can purchase them on StockX. You can, and GOAT, I again, no facts, no evidence. I think GOAT is a prime example of Nike, Adidas, etc. sends them a certain amount of shoes for GOAT to exist, because even those models don't like them just to rely on resellers and consumers. It just doesn't add up when it comes to the price of shoes when there's a retail market. So, those apps, I'm complete speculation and just, falsely putting things into the air here, but I firmly believe they have some source of supply from the direct brand and company. They have to. It's got to be.
I wouldn't put it past them at all.
No.
With the amount of money that's involved in the shoe game right now, I wouldn't put it past them. It's opportunity for both the retailer and the aftermarket. I
bought a pair of foam runners off of a guy I traded him a shoe and I bought it, and then I gave him some cash. So I bought them at aftermarket. And to I guess, I was clarifying that they were real. And one of the ways that he chose to show me they were real is he showed me his StockX seller seller stats. His seller stats level. And I'm like, and he showed me and he was like, this is how much I made on StockX. I mean, this guy had a full-time job income off of StockX alone. And it was like $60,000 on StockX alone last year. And I'm like, to sell shoes, like you said, I don't know if it's attainable through the 5 shoes for $20 profit margin, or are you have to have some type of supply on the most hype shoes that's retail for $125 and resales for $1,000 to make that type of yearly annual profit. You know what I mean? And if people are out there doing that, then I just don't see how there's even a realistic chance for the average consumer or even the average sneakerhead to buy shoes at retail price, because there's too much money in the aftermarket for the retail market to exist. Way too much. That doesn't add up.
Yeah. Thoughts on that.
Yeah, it just doesn't. And I'm passionate about it because I'm a sneaker. I was just talking to Mariah about this. I was like, what was the first time that you identified yourself as a sneakerhead? Not because, like you said, Tavian, not because your dad or your parent was buying you the shoes, but the first time you cared about the shoes you had on your feet. And she brought up a great point. I'll attest to this first. She was like, I think the 5th grade. And I was like, you know what? I was about 10 in the 5th grade and I wanted to be just like Allen Iverson. So I had Allen Iverson shoes. And that's when I cared about the shoes that were on my feet. And I think it just kind of grew from there in terms of influences. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but what would you say, Jill, was the first time you cared about the shoes you had? How old were you the first time you cared about the shoes that were on your feet?
Probably like forever. As like stupid as that. Well, no, I mean, I had neighbors growing up that always wore Nike, that I just wanted Nike. But Allen Iverson, for sure, when I was like in 6th grade, the I-5s came out and I needed those on the basketball court. But then it kind of like broke away. Like I didn't really understand people collected shoes like that until I met you in college, and you had a ton of shoes. I was like, dude, why do you have so many shoes? You can only wear them once at a time. You know, like I kept having like a few pairs, and you like, you know, just explained it. And I was like, oh, wow, like that's fucking cool, you know?
Well, see, and I think you got it.
Because I didn't know that was like a whole realm, like in community of people who camped out, bought shoes, like there were special editions. Like I didn't understand that. But in terms of caring, like, you know, probably like middle school. But then, you know, connecting with you and you guys and seeing your collections, I never thought I'd get into that. But then I did start caring more of like, oh, I would want this maybe for the hype at the time. And then more so becoming just because I wanted it. And now for sure, never thought I'd say this, I'm technically a sneakerhead because I do care about shoes I want to wear. I like specifics. And a wise man once told me, once you buy a pair of Yeezys, you'll never wear anything else. And it's kind of true. So.
Know that guy? Yeah. Know him personally? Good guy?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's bad. Like I try to get every Yeezy that comes out. And just more so for like, let's see how it works. Like I enter every draw well, not every, but like majority of draws I'm probably entering just because I want to see if I win. And if I do, it's not even so much about me flipping it. Like I'll ask my friends first, anyone, if I don't want it, anyone interested in this at retail, you know, but I do.
Well, see, I think that's it. I think that's an important distinction to make too, because there's a difference between a collector and a sneakerhead. And that's why I said when you first cared, because I think a sneakerhead just cares about the shoes that they have on their feet.
Yeah.
A collector buys shoes just to say they have them.
Just to have them. And
I'm
probably like 90 to 85% sneakerhead and the other collector. Because I will say the lights that I bought, I definitely wanted to wear, but more so to have. And like, I'll just keep these shoes. Like, I'm just happy I have them. And, you know, depending on how much I wear them and they get broken in, like, you know, it's how much. I mean, I'm going to keep them regardless. So same to you, Jay.
When did you first identify yourself as like caring about the shoes that you have on your feet? And it's not so much the brand, because before you answer, there's a point in time, you know, I've been a sneaker head since I could say 10 years old. There was a point in time though where the brand switched for me. Like I wasn't wearing Jordans. I was wearing running shoes. I mean, I was wearing just strictly running shoes with my.
I do want to say a comment real quick. Yeah, before Tavian goes, I do want to say the reason why I do wear the shoes I wear now is specifically because of how heavy they are. You mentioned running shoes.
Yep.
You did put me on to the older you get. I know we're not the oldest people, but your feet do produce different temperatures, stuff like that, and you don't want to wear heavy shoes. I do try to wear lighter shoes. I do like certain Jordan pairs, like the ones. I love ones. I still wear some today. The 11s, even though I want to have a pair of 11s for my own, I don't know how much I would wear them because they're just too heavy.
Yeah.
But I do want a pair, so that might be like the collecting side of me. And even some like 5s and 7s I like, and then like the 12s, but I don't know how much I'd wear them just because they're too heavy. So just want to say that.
That's the part I just don't want to get confused with. It's like, it's not the brand. It's just you personally caring about the shoes on your feet. When do you think that started for you?
Probably when I was 9 and I had the pack of the 11s and the 12s. It was like a combination of my 2 favorite shoes, and then obviously Dad's 2 favorite shoes. But like you said, I got to a point where all I cared about getting was Yeezys, really. Like I was still getting Jordans, but what I was wearing was Yeezys. And that was about like my senior year of high school. I got my first pair of Yeezys 2017. And that's when like the Yeezy, obviously we subconsciously will follow certain trends. And I was definitely the Yeezy hype. And on top of the fact that it was like a very easy to wear shoe, a nice feeling foot, super light.
Dress up, dress down.
Exactly. And at that point I was just like, I want Yeezys because this is what's in style right now. I mean, people wear what's in style. And it looked cool. I liked it. So I was still getting Jordans, but I really cared about buying Yeezys. And that's when I was like getting to a point where I had my first job. I was making my own money. So I was buying my own shoes really. at that point, and I was trying to buy Yeezys.
That does change it. I mean, when you find this new space of expendable money and you want to buy things you like, that also helps influence the things that you buy, the type of shoes, I guess. And where would you say you're at now in terms of this transition? I mean, I know if I walk into your establishment, I'll see boxes and boxes of Jordan 1s. I think you got rid of all your Yeezys for wear. So what do you think that kind of transition, when do you think that transition for you?
Right around the time I got into like reselling heavy, where I realized how much money I could actually make off of buying a shoe and selling it. I got rid of all my Yeezys except my first pair that I ever got. I know I won't get rid of because it has nostalgic value to it because it was my first pair. I got back into the roots of my Jordans, obviously. Another pair that I remember having, I think I was also 9 at the time when I had the 11s and the 12s. I had the 1s and the 22s.
And the 22s.
Yeah, the ones that I had, that's when the packs used to come up to 23.
Yeah.
The ones that I had was the black and white ones, which I like loved them. And I remember Dad also, he got me the other ones pack. It was the DMP Celtic ones, like black, green, and white pair. Mm-hmm. And then I had the black and red pair of ones that came in a pack. And I tried to play basketball on the ones, and they hurt my feet. It was terrible. I never played basketball on ones again. But I've always liked one since I was a kid. And then realizing how fashionable the one was, I got back into it definitely around the trend for sure. And I also realized how much money the Jordan 1 could make me at the time because it was so high.
And the retail for like $120, $150.
It was at that, they used to in 2017, it was like 160, or 2018 was like 160. And then usually retail on Jordans goes up every year by like $10. But not every single one was I so aggressive in getting for myself versus getting for the aftermarket. Like, obviously, I'm not just going to get a shoe because it's a Jordan 1 and I like the model because it's a Jordan 1. Like, the color has to be something I see myself wearing. So if I was going to get a Jordan 1 where the color was nice for me to wear, I would try to get it to where I can secure a pair to sell and also a pair for me to wear, to where the pair that I secured to sell was almost helping me pay for the one that I'm wearing.
Yeah.
It's like
makes sense.
I'm basically getting a shoe for free. If I'm selling a shoe, I'm picking up the margin for it that it cost me to own the shoe, I'm not coming out of pocket for anything. And that's what the idea of that also really got me into it. I'm like, well, I could just keep collecting shoes that I really love and like to wear for basically no money coming out of my pocket because they're paying for itself.
I got another question because I saw, I think Currency posted, or somebody posted a Currency tweet about dunks and how that kind of used to be like a cult community of, like, I'd say sneakerheads, people who cared about their shoes, but they were unique in a sense of, because dunks at one point were looked at as like a knockoff Jordan 1. And like, it wasn't from my days in school, like if you had dunks, it's because you couldn't get the Jordan 1s. It wasn't even cool to just get dunks because they looked just like a Jordan 1. And it was like, the Jordan 1s are better because they're Michael Jordan, even though they're both Nikes, which is pretty, ironic. But he made the point about how there used to be a significance to purchasing dunks and like the uniqueness of like SB dunks. And now it's like Nike's capitalizing on the simplistic architecture of this shoe, and the market and the community is hyping these dunks up. I mean, it's probably one of the most simplest shoes next to their Air Force One. And the resale market on these dunks is like skyrocketed. And why do you think that is? I don't understand it. I can never see myself wearing a pair of low cut dunks or even high cut dunks. I'd probably just want a pair of ones. So why do you think this aftermarket exists for dunks?
I think the market for dunks is heavily influenced by women because low cut shoe is easy for a girl to wear, obviously, and colorway something as simple as a white and blue or a white and black is similar to, like you said, it's similar to an Air Force One in the simplicity.
Very interesting because I know that's my wife's favorite shoe, and she just got back into collecting that.
generally speaking, women that just like see a shoe and think, oh, this Nike Dunk is nice. They're not thinking about the aftermarket value of the shoe or the demand of the shoe if they don't really have an understanding of how shoes work in today's day and age, basically. So they're looking to pay for this shoe that they see themselves wearing because it's so simple and the colorway is so nice to them. And they have really, to me, women have really drove the market of dunks, along with men for sure, but women have definitely driven the market of dunks extremely high.
Speaking of women, transition into how I think much women drive the aftermarket in general. There's this, there's the term called base sizes, right? Where the higher value, because, me and Jared, we talked about this, like the same shoe comes out and it's $300 more in a different size.
Yeah.
Whether that's because of the colorway or the model. How influential is essentially an athletic shoe? I mean, we're talking about a Jordan or an Adidas Yeezy, a men's shoe driven by women in terms of the aftermarket, where a size 7 might cost $600 in a particular shoe, but a size 11.5 costs $300. Why does that price double, in your opinion?
Well, especially for the Yeezys back in like 2017. I mean, you had Kim Kardashian wearing Yeezys.
Yeah.
Obviously, so it goes back to the social media influence on everyone, not just women, but the social media influence on women for sure when it comes to Yeezys. And then for the Jordan aspect, really TikTok influenced the Jordan 1 for women. Because like the Jordan 1, you didn't really see, like, obviously there's women that wear Jordans and there's women that wear Dunks and there's women that are sneakerheads and collectors, but the influence of social media has like fiddled its way into everyone's mind, like, oh, this is what's cool. And the woman will pay top dollar more than the men will pay top dollar for a certain shoe, in my opinion, without thinking twice about it. A guy, if he, like you said, you see a shoe that's,
unless that guy's buying them for a woman.
Yeah, I mean that can be sure.
Yeah.
A guy that like truly understands the market of shoes is gonna be patient in regards to, maybe I shouldn't buy this shoe right now. Maybe it'll go down, or maybe I can trade a shoe that I have in my collection towards this shoe. A girl's not thinking, maybe I need to trade these shoes towards another shoe. They're just like, I'm gonna buy this shoe right now. That's generally speaking. Obviously, there's women out there that understand the shoe game and they understand.
Right. Which I think is interesting because you a Yeezy and a Jordan, or especially Jordan 1. I mean, I think it just looks more like a masculine shoe, even in a smaller size. So it's really interesting why or how women drive this market for a product that's made for men.
Yeah,
that's an intriguing.
I got a question for you. Yeah, I got to kind of, not to pivot too much from this topic, but what are your thoughts on like Off-White just pretty much putting zip ties on shoes and selling it for $1 million? And then like, what are your thoughts on Travis Scott with like his PEs and stuff like that?
Good question.
That's where it gets interesting, because then you have say, so Travis Scott, obviously you have a collab with him and Jordan. Travis Scott really blew up in like 2017 or 2018 with Astro World.
Sounds about right.
That's when he was coming out with these shoes. So he's already got the hype behind his name. And then to collab with such a extremely successful brand such as Jordan, it just adds to the hype. Regardless of what he puts out, it's going to be hype. And there's going to be demand behind it because they want the hottest thing out. Travis Scott, the hottest guy out in 2017 or whenever Astro World was going on, the tour or whatever. And then you also got the legacy of Jordan. It's just like, oh yeah, I want what he's got or what he's about to put out. And obviously that's the supply that Nike and Jordan produce with this shoe. They're like, to maintain this hype, we're going to keep the supply low because we know this demand is going to be extremely high for this shoe. So, I mean, and then as far as Off-White, I didn't even really know about Off-White until when I got into sneaker resale. And I didn't know like these shoes were going for retail at $170 for some Off-White Vapor Magic.
Yeah.
market at $1,000. I didn't know nothing about that. I had to teach myself about the off-white market for sure.
Well,
Well, real quick, I never see people wearing off-white shoes like that. So I'm like, why are they so expensive? Why are they so popular? Like, I feel like you would see people wearing them. I guess maybe they're collecting them, but how are their resale so high when you don't see people wearing them?
I think I just want to touch on that real quick, Tavian, before you do, because part of the off-white is affiliated with the designer, Virgil Abloh, who was at one point affiliated with Kanye West. And so, like, I think there's certain brands, I don't know if I'd put them in tiers, but there's certain brands that are for certain tiers of consumers. And I think that off-white is for like that, like, for example, the Travis Scott shoe, Travis Scott collaboration with Jordan. That is essentially what they would call a hype beast shoe, because you're purchasing that shoe particularly for the hype, in my opinion. A Travis Scott fan, they're gonna buy his album, they're gonna listen to his music, they're gonna go to a show. Sneakerhead fan, they're gonna buy like a sneakerhead is gonna buy the originality of a sneaker. The collaboration, like you said, incorporates the hype. And so I think the hype around off-white revolves around the designer itself. And, you got I think he's the head designer in Louis Vuitton, one of the most, if not the most prestigious fashion design brands in the world, collaborating with an athletic brand like Nike. And so now you just combine two worlds, people who buy $600 t-shirts from Louis Vuitton and people who buy $100 sneakers from Nike. And now it's sought after from two different consumer bases. And that's where I think you get the retail price, which is for that Nike consumer, and then the aftermarket price, which is for that designer brand consumer more so per se. Because like you said, I don't see them often either on people's feet. I actually see more clothes of off-white than I do.
Yeah,
shoes,
that's what I'm saying. Like, you see more regular people wearing like an off-white branded tee or whatever than you would an ugly shoe. I think all the shoes are ugly. I think they ruin it. I know that's just a personal opinion, but
I think
it's just
interesting. I think the shoe part, that shoe aspect of it is like Tavian just said. I think it's the hype that revolves around who made them, because they're not just a Jordan. It's no different than the Supreme brand. I mean, Supreme slaps a sticker onto a cup, and the cup's not a $10 cup; it's a $50 cup. So I think it's just branding, just branding and a smart collaboration for Nike there. I don't get it. I know the shoes made different. I've seen a few. I've never owned a pair of off-white Jordans, but I know that they're made a little different in terms of material. Wasn't there just some, Tavian, I don't know if there was like some controversy around the off-white too, because they like the production of the shoe actually involves cracking in the sole.
Yeah.
And I saw him like kind of explain him capturing the authenticity of that shoe based on when that shoe came out. And I mean, if you're a true fashionist, like if you're into fashion, you appreciate those things, I'm sure.
That shoe is going to be interesting. I think it released on like November 12th.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a Jordan 2, a shoe that you'll never see a person wearing a Jordan 2 in today's day and age.
No, it just won't.
Jordan 2 has existed. But the fact that Virgil has added his name to the aspect of the Jordan 2, it's going to bring that hype. And there's going to be a certain demand just because there's an off-white. If it was a regular Jordan 2 low top, that shoe right now,
that should be sitting in champs.
Would be sitting on the shelf at Foot Locker. You could walk in at any point in time, ask for your size and buy it. But because the off-white name is added to it, it's going to add a different dynamic for the consumer just because it's off-white. And the only off-white shoe I have is the off-white 5. I really like the Jordan 5 itself. Also, the off-white aspect to it. I like that. I'm a fan of the zip tie, honestly. It's something different. It's
okay, cool.
And Virgil adds a different dynamic to the Jordan that is obviously not normal to the shoe. There's always his touch that he puts on the shoe. Like in the 5, it has like it doesn't have the bump on the side of the sock interliner or whatever it's called. It has like a cutout thing where you can actually cut the circle out of the shoe. It's just like a different dynamic to the shoe, which is cool to me. And I also think it's just the Jordan 5. I had like a couple pairs when I was a kid. It's like super easy to wear for me. I like wearing them all the time, and it's, I don't know, the off-white aspect to it. I think I would wear that shoe if it didn't have the off-white aspect to it, but the fact that it does, I just think it's a cool shoe. I don't know.
Okay, cool. Maybe I gotta warm up to it. Well, real quick, hold on. Speaking of which, when did you get this Off-White 5? Because a year ago we were all in Vegas. I feel like you were looking for one. Were you not? Did you just recently get it over the last year, or did you have it before then?
So they came out. They came out right as I was getting into like the heart of my shoe resale, and I believe in 2020 they came out for a retail price of like $225. I want to say they came out around All-Star Weekend.
Okay.
I didn't get them. Obviously, I'm entering the raffles for them. I didn't get them because a few months ago by, I had an opportunity to buy them for like $600 brand new, because that's what they was going for in my size. I'm like, that's too high. I'm trying to negotiate with this guy, and he doesn't want to sell them for less than 600. A few months go by, and I want to say at the end of that year, actually, it was the end of that year. It was like October or November is when I actually ended up picking them up. I paid $820 for them. I paid $820 for them. Used at the time. Used. Not even a brand new pair was $820. A brand new pair at that time was going for like $1,100 in the 11 and a half size, which is a rare size. But the way I look at it, for a shoe that I didn't get on the day that it came out, I'm not gonna buy it brand new knowing I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna look for it used because I'm gonna wear a shoe. Or not, I'm gonna wear a shoe. The fact that it's used already, it doesn't bother me, as long as obviously it's not like worn to the ground. If it's worn 1 or 2 times, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna wear it a third time, and I can save myself $300 versus buying a brand new pair to only. It's like driving a car off the lot. Once you buy it, it automatically loses value as soon as you drive it off the lot.
That's a great point. I mean, I like people purchase used cars, and it's a brand new car to them. As long as it doesn't have too many miles, as long as the interior is not ripped up, as long as the body is clean.
Wow.
And that's how I kind of perceive Jordans also, because like you said, after that documentary came out, the skyrocket prices on Jordans just went through the roof. And so like, I don't even try to get Jordans that I want at retail. I'm just like, if I find them either worn, still clean, or I can trade something for them, I'll get them on the aftermarket, because sneakers is just a waiting, like you said, Jay, it's just an L waiting to happen. There's no point in even attempting. And again, if I'm the third person to wear them, the second person to wear them, or here's my favorite one, try it on will decrease the value of a shoe.
Yeah.
Like you'll see, try it on once, and I'm like, so that knocks $200 off a shoe. All right, nobody's wore this shoe yet.
Try it on. Would you jump in a fucking pool with them on? Like,
the store that's selling the shoe will ask you to try it on like a certain mat, so it doesn't.
So it doesn't touch the ground. Like, it can't even touch the ground, and it's real interesting. But before we wrap, couple things I wanted to get into. One, but it's for both of you guys, because I have mine on, but I'll let you guys go first. Pair of shoes that has came out, or that hasn't came out, because if it's came out, you got it. But the shoe that you don't have, that you want to own, that has either came out or hasn't came out yet. And I'll let you go first, Tavian.
The top, it's got to be.
Yep. Like your current, because I think this shifts, your current holy grail of shoe.
It's got to be the Off-White 4 for sure.
The tan ones. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Jared?
Wow. I think for me, I'm just gonna go with like a shoe that always caught my attention from the beginning when I first started realizing I had a liking for wanting shoes. I'm gonna go with Gamma 11s.
That's an interesting pick.
I think I need to have that shoe even if I never wear it. Yeah, I don't know.
That's a rare shoe too. I mean, it's more rare than now before.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And it's just the first time I ever saw it and got introduced to it, my heart was like, you need to have that. So maybe one day that will be the case.
You don't see that shoe. For me, and there's a story behind it, but it's definitely, I mean, there's other shoes I want, but like right now, the holy grail for me is the Air Max 97 1, Sean Witherspoons. Remember, we were in Jersey and I had a chance to buy that shoe for like $500, brand new.
I remember, yeah.
And at that time, I was like, there's no way in hell I'll spend $500 on a shoe. And the dude selling the shoe, he made a point. He was like, it's the price right now. It could go up, and now.
And you knew it too. You were like, oh, it's going to go up.
brand new. That shoe is like $1,300. And I'm just like, I'm never going to buy that shoe brand new. No. Ever. I'm not even going to trade for that shoe and spend, because I'd have to trade like 3 pairs of shoes and still spend $500. And I'm just like, but that's the shoe. That's the shoe I don't have that I definitely want. And so with that, we kind of wrap this up. We do a segment every time, Tavian, on our podcast called Die on the Heel. And so if you were standing on a hill and you had to die with what you consider to be the best sneaker of your current time, what hill are you dying on as the best sneaker of your current time?
That I personally own?
You don't have to own it. This is just, you could have owned it, you could have sold it, you could have bought it, you could want it. What is your opinion that you're willing to go to the grave with as the best sneaker of all time?
That's for sure the Bread 11s.
Bread 11s.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
For sure the Bread.
All right. That's respectable. I like that.
I remember having Jordans before that, but that's the shoe that I'm like, oh yeah. And
best sneaker.
I love them. They're priceless.
Best sneaker ever.
Yeah, Bread 11s.
Okay. All right. Jared, you got one?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I thought about this before. I was like, I'm definitely going to ask this question. It's definitely going to be the heel. And it was very hard for me to determine what would be the best sneaker of all time. But I think for me, it's the Yeezy 350. And I've had a lot of sneakers. I got I got a ton of sneakers right now. I've had like 7 pairs of sneakers stolen out of my trunk. I've had a ton of sneakers. But I think that the functionality of a Yeezy 350 is unmatched.
You had some twos stolen out your trunk, didn't you? You had the white and red.
I had the Countdown Pack twos that was stolen out of my trunk that I'm still mad about because nobody else had those shoes except for me.
You'll never see somebody.
You'll never see somebody wearing them again. But the reason I'm dying on the hill with the Yeezy 350, one, there is a little bias. I'm a big Kanye West fan, of course. I think it's a unique design, although it might replicate some other shoes. But I think the functionality of it, and maybe this is just because of who made it. Maybe it's because, Kim Kardashian wears it. I think you can dress that shoe up to a club, to a business formal event if you want. And you can also wear that shoe with some pajama pants or a sweatsuit, on a lounge day. And I think you can wear that shoe to the gym. You can wear that shoe anywhere and it's still fashionable. And I think that's hard to accomplish with a shoe. However, the Jordan 11 is very close. I mean, people wear Jordan 11s with, tuxedos and it looks like a dress shoe. So there's a lot of functionality. I see
a lot of Jordan 11s at weddings, man.
There's a lot of functionality in that Jordan 11. That's a dress shoe now. Yeah, there's a lot of functionality in it. But I think where the 350 kind of tops it for me is just the comfort. That 350 is very comfortable on my foot. I don't like tying my shoes. I don't have to tie it for it to stay on my foot. I can run a 40-yard dash in it. I can hop a fence. I can do whatever I want in it. And to me, that's the best sneaker, hands down, even though it's rare. When did it first come out? 7 years ago? Six years ago?
And I feel like a lot of people thought that it was going to die down in popularity and people would move on from it. But I think it's here to stay. I really think 350s are never going to be unpopular. I don't want to never say never, but it just seems like they're not going anywhere. I think you can attest to that, to the fact that, certain models of the 350, certain colorways of the 350 get restocked and there's still the aftermarket for them. Yep. If something wasn't iconic, a restocking would completely decrease the aftermarket, and the aftermarket just doesn't decrease even though these shoes get restocked retail. So I'm dying on the hill is, the Yeezy 350 is the best sneaker of all time. I know a lot of sneakerheads and collectors would probably call me a rookie or disagree, because I think just because shoes came out prior to, but I don't think it's a matter of when. I think it's a matter of how. So
It's a matter of how the shoe impacts or was made, and it's, like I said, functional, that makes it the best sneaker. Just because something came out 30 years ago, I don't think makes it the best sneaker, in my opinion. So that's the hill I'm dying on.
So I don't know if I ever do this segment right, because I actually agree with you and want to say the same thing you said about 350, but to spice it up and keep it different, a shoe that I actually bought multiple times before I was even into shoes. This shoe really stood out to me, was the Air Max 90. I thought for me was always affordable, comfortable, and stylish. And it's so simple. And I think people just sleep on simple shoes sometimes. And for me,
they do.
At the time, not being into shoes and looking back, like I always have this love for just a clean Air Max 90, just simple. Even though I feel like Nike over the last like 5 years fucking redesigned it and fucked it up, and it's not the same as it was 10 years ago. But
I don't even know. Can you still?
Yeah, the Air Max 90. I will die on that hill that the Air Max 90 is a fucking fresh shoe, and people need to put some respect on it.
It is a clean shoe. It is respectable. That's
real quick before we do wrap it up, though. I do want to ask, what are some good tips for anyone getting into maybe pursuing just collecting shoes or maybe making an investment? You do have places to sell on different platforms with StockX, Go, eBay now. And then also just wanting to collect, like you said, you keep it personal for whatever you're into at the time. And then obviously for selling, it's more like affordable and what you can make on profit margin. But what are some advice for any beginners getting into either collecting or just flipping?
For selling, build up your own, what's the word for it? Your own customer base, basically. Like market yourself in regards to selling. Like the GOAT and StockX, like it's easy to move a shoe on GOAT and StockX. It's harder to make a connection with a person and sell it to that person. The more you do that, the more you'll have more people coming back to you and growing your own clientele, basically. As long as you can sell directly to the consumer, not through a third party person, basically, makes it that much more. For a person that really wants this shoe and you're connected with that person, like you can provide this shoe to them directly, it's better to me that way. Join like Facebook groups, sneaker groups, post on Instagram, post on social media. Obviously, everybody's on their phone nowadays. So like make the effort to make the connection with the person directly versus just selling. The easy way is just to just sell on StockX and go. But to me, it's first of all, it takes some of your money with it. There's always a seller's fee for it. When you're selling directly to the consumer, there's no fee. Their profit margin is your profit margin right there directly. So for selling, definitely build your own clientele. For collecting, make connections with the right people. Have patience when you don't win. So like when you don't win, don't impulse buy directly. Have patience. Let the market settle for a shoe for a little bit. People are gonna undercut the market. It's always, like I said in the beginning, there's gonna be people that are trying to get rid of the shoe immediately to make their margin right then and there. And they're gonna have the price of the shoe will gradually go down. The impulse buyers will spike it up, but as long as that shoe, like after a week comes out and they see that because there's a new shoe coming out the next week. So if a shoe comes out a week after, and the week after you see the market has slowly settled down, it'll keep going down probably before it spikes up, where those guys that are holding the shoe for a long-term investment can make their money. You want to buy when the market is settled down, not when the market is impulsors in the market like they're buying, for sure.
Yeah. Last question I got. We'll make it quick to wrap up. I know we're dying on a hill, and so this might be the same answer, but I do want to ask, because this could differ. Most iconic shoe. So it's not your personal opinion of best shoe, but what's the most iconic? What shoe is recognizable around the world? Do you think is the most iconic shoe, sneaker?
Probably for me, I would say either the most recognizable shoe is definitely either the Air Force One or the Jordan 1, I would say.
That's what I was thinking, Air Force One.
I think I'd go with Air Force One for sure. And more particularly all white. I think, and it's you got a blank canvas, but I think that all white shoe is just
You know what shoe I could say maybe play second to that real quick is the Adidas Shell Toe Superstar. I feel like that's pretty recognizable too. Like you just know what that is.
You just know what that is. That's very true.
Yeah,
that's very true. Very true. I just know that that's
people could not wear that shoe in 20 years and you will still know what it is.
You still know what it is.
Yeah.
That's a very popular debate in terms of the most iconic. And a lot of times I hear the answers like the most iconic being, like the Jordan 11 or the Jordan 1. And I just think, like you said, a Nike Air Force One or even an Adidas Shell Toe is probably, when it comes to fashionable sense, that's the most iconic sneaker that there is. And realistically, most sneaker heads at some point owned a Shell Toe or an Adidas or a Air Force One.
Yeah,
at some point. So I think we're spot on with that. But hey, this was great. Jay, you want to wrap it up? Episode 6, you said? I lost count after
episode 6. Oh yeah, is there any you want to shout yourself out? You want anyone to follow you if when this show has mad numbers?
Nobody listens to it, but someday
we don't have high numbers yet, but you never know, man. When they backlog it, you want to shout out any social media or anything like that, or?
Nah, I don't need to shout out. I barely use my social media. I don't need to
respect.
All right. This is great, man.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Later.
Likewise.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?